What's up, yo? Welcome to Your One Life. I'm your host, Kim Young Kim, and I'm super glad to have you as a listener today. If you're new here, here's what this podcast is all about. This podcast is about teaching you from the greatest minds in the world, assisting you in all aspects of your life, and helping you to have inner peace when your football team loses this season by helping you realize that you don't own them, nor do you have any impact on any of their failure or success. Now, speaking of success, I am super excited to share with you a great interview I recently had with an internationally recognized personal finance expert, the money coach, Miss Lynette Khalfani-Cox. Here's the interview. I hope you enjoy it. Lynette, I am so happy to have you on the podcast today. Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and it's been like a ton of things happening, one after another, but I figure, busy is good, especially when you're doing the stuff that you love. And I am. So I'm feeling fabulous.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Good deal. Well, fabulous is your adjective. So I'm giving that to you and you already own it. So there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and start with an introduction of you, and then we're going to get rolling. All right, here we go. She's the cream of the crop and gets props nonstop. She's a G short for genius. She's Lynette Khalfani-Cox, who you need in your life, a beacon of life that brightens your path, here to make money struggles a thing of your past, because she's focused on enlightening to lighten your load, with a mindset of abundance and a mindset of growth, and a heart of humility with a focus on serving, to lead you to freedom, so soak up the learning, because she's dropping knowledge bombs all across the land. From the Today Show to Oprah, she's in high demand, but started from the bottom, now she's here. And prove what was possible when you persevere. From UCI to USC, she mastered journalism, but then the news broke. She was laid off into a greater vision, went from doing interviews to interview requests, from $100K in debt to a 7-figure flex, and 16 books. New York Times says she is the best. But all the while, she had her priorities in check. With plenty fishes in the sea, she found Earl the Pearl. And as a mother of 3, just welcomed a baby girl. Now she's a grandmother. Congratulations to you all. But still, she keeps on giving, helping people to stand tall. Because she's a mentor to many, and her peeps keep teaching. And she's raising up leaders, so her reach keeps reaching. Her passion is her purpose, and her purpose is to help. It's Cox communicating your worth beyond your wealth, but still we gotta prosper, live the opposite of broke. Questions I got plenty, so let's ask the money coach.
Hey, drop those bombs. That was a really good intro. I will say that was the most unique, creative, integrated introduction anyone has ever given me. So yeah, props to you for that.
Wow.
I love it.
No, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And
we wove in a lot of my story in that. I see what you did there. Okay.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was great.
I'm going to be honest. That one was a tough one to write because you had
to work on that.
So many things in your life. The more you accomplish in life, the harder my life and my work gets. And I'm just like, oh, there's so many things I want to throw in there, but I can't throw it all in there. It's like, we're going to keep rolling and rolling and rolling. Here we are. So
you did a great job. But you know what? All of that, you talked about Oprah, the books and the New York Times bestseller and all that. And then my kids are like, yeah, Ma, but still, are you going to cook me some dinner? When they visit, they're like, yeah, all of that other stuff really doesn't matter, So,
oh, my goodness. Well,
yeah.
It matters to me, and I'm sure deep down inside, it matters to them a lot. So,
yeah, they're equally proud of me. At least I like to think as I am of them. So, Earl and I, we always say, like, we wanted life. We're already like super successful because we raised 3 kids who are amazing. And, our oldest daughter, she's 28 and she graduated from UT Austin. She's married now, been married 5 years. Sure. She just had a baby, our first grandchild, our son who graduated from North Carolina State University. He's teaching, pursuing his passion. Sure. He's in New Jersey. And then our youngest, Alexis, she's 19. She's a sophomore in college and she's crushing it in school and just doing a whole bunch of amazing things on her path to become an attorney. So we're like, what more could you want in life? 3 happy, sane, normal, adjusted kids,
That's
So
fantastic. You couldn't hold that in, could you? You were like, I'm
no,
so
I
proud of my
couldn't.
kids. I got to talk about them. I love that. No, that's fantastic. It's great to hear their stories. And yeah, it's great to see you winning. And speaking of winning and teaching people about financial literacy, this has come full circle because my first financial education guest I had on my previous podcast was Kirsten and Julian Saunders.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes. And
Yes.
then I
Oh,
found out that you're mentoring them and all that stuff. And I'm just like,
oh,
oh my goodness, this is great. I get the the mentor of
okay.
the
Okay.
legends.
Yes. They have a fabulous brand that they've
Oh,
built, Rich and
yes.
Regular. And they're also amazing parents
Mm-hmm.
to their son, Bo.
Mm-hmm.
I like to see people winning and I like to see people grow and make an impact. And they're doing like all of the above. So, yeah, it's good to hear that.
They're great. They're great. All
Love
right.
it.
Yeah, indeed. So 16 books. It's a lot of books.
All those student loans I had when I went to USC, I put those skills to good use.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a master's in journalism. Sometimes people ask me that, like, geez, how did you write so many books? They're like, I've been struggling for 5 years to write one book. How did you write, 16 of them? It does help that this is what I went to school for and this is what I was trained to do. And then, even before I owned this company, themoneycoach.net with my husband, Earl, I worked in media for different organizations. And so I was used to writing all the time.
That's fantastic. Super impressive. We're going to hone in on only 15 of the books today. So, no, I'm just kidding. We're going to.
Only 15. Who's counting?
Yeah. We'll just, we got a lot to talk about, is what I'm saying. No, but we will hone in on a couple of the books. And your most recent book, workbook, which is right behind you, The Bounce Back. It's I hate to say that it's timely, but here we are and it's timely. And I'm grateful that you wrote it and are helping all the people out there to bounce back and build their resilience and whatnot. I would like to talk about the 10 Ds that are setbacks in your book. Just mention what they are and then we'll keep moving.
Sure. Well, I talk about the so-called dreaded Ds, and I call them that because they all start with the letter D and they're all dreadful, frankly, when they happen to you. But it's basically about setbacks, personal, financial, and otherwise, that people go through. So it's everything from downsizing when you lose your job, to divorce, to a death in the family of the main breadwinner, disability, disease, debt, damaged credit, disasters, natural or man-made, and what I call dollar deficits as well, where you're like, I'm broke, I have no cash flow or, no savings or assets. And even things like discrimination, which can also pack a big punch financially and emotionally for people.
Sure.
So I've been through 9 of the 10 dreaded Ds and have survived them and lived to continue to thrive. And so I certainly share my own story and stories of recovery in the book, also profile so many people who have been through these challenges and then what they did to recover, to strengthen their resilience and their capacity to bounce back faster than some folks might otherwise do. So I wanted to let people know that you can take life's 1-2 punches, and with the right systems and structure and support in place, you really can bounce back. And oftentimes better than you were before, with more perspective, greater sense of self, and other benefits.
That's wonderful. And I'm going to ask you about a number of those, some of the strategies in there. I really appreciate the fact that you talk about self-care in this book and hone in on it, because self-care is, we talk about it and we're like, yeah, self-care is important. But like, why is that so important? Why did you spend so much time focusing in on that?
Well, I know it was contrary and counterintuitive to people who are picking up a book, talking about bouncing back from setbacks and thinking about having a financial or other recovery. And a lot of people, of course, want to jump into the prescriptive, the how-to. It's like, I lost my job. How do I get another job? Or I'm in debt. How do I get out of debt? Or I have bad credit. What do I do to recover from that? And I take pains in Bounce Back to really focus first and foremost on your emotional and personal well-being for a couple of reasons. One is that you'll have better outcomes in the end. If you don't take care of your mental health, your physical well-being, you're not going to be in a position to make the best financial choices. So it's actually to your advantage to look after yourself first before you jump into trying to fix whatever the problem is that you need to recover from. But then I also wanted people to look at their finances and their life in a holistic way, right? We know studies show us that when people have physical ailments or maladaptive strategies, whether that's their framework for thinking or negative self talk or a lack of self care, that affects other areas, right? It can affect your relationship, it can affect your decision making, it can affect your finances. Because some people who are stressed out, for example, not only might they have sleepless nights, anxiety, depression, physical maladies, but they do things that are frankly not in their best interests. So they may self sabotage, they may overshop or overspend because they're trying to use retail therapy to feel better. They may drink more than they otherwise would. So all of these things are interconnected. And I wanted to show some of those connections and get people to focus on that first before they thought about the actual practical and tactical in terms of the how-to steps for financial recovery.
Yeah. That's so important. It's just kind of like, hey, you're gonna make nothing but more probably bad decisions if you don't think about holistically how you're gonna make your life better. I really appreciate that. So you're saying don't do retail therapy? Or you're anti?
Probably not the best thing. But also, honestly, there was another reason for centering that in the book and highlighting that and using that first. It's partly because that was part of the framework that I was giving people for making good decisions later when they addressed the 10 dreaded Ds.
Right.
So at every stage, whatever it is you're trying to recover from, having self-care, being grounded, taking care of your mental health, all of those things actually helps you with each of those things. So right now, unfortunately, for example, we've seen the joblessness rate tick upwards, right? We've seen a ton of layoffs, not just in the federal sector, but in other industries. So the person who gets laid off from a job, for example, and is saying, oh my God, I want to jump right back in. I want to get another job to replace my salary. Of course, we know that that's the natural tendency and kind of top of mind for people. But I lay out in the book, Bounce Back, and in the workbook, especially, why it is that that's counterproductive. For example, I highlight a woman, her name is Dawn. She's the founder of a place called the Nourish Spot in New York. And, she talks about getting laid off from a very high 6-figure job and how she was just like depressed, like literally in the bed, could not get out, could not function for several months. Now, somebody else might not have that level of emotional reaction to getting a pink slip and getting laid off, but you may have some bitterness. You may have some sense of, after all I gave to this company, this is the thanks that I get. You may have some anger or anxiety. And if you haven't dealt with that yet, you're not going to show up as your best self. You're not going to present very well when you're in interviews, for example. If you're still blaming your boss, if you haven't done any self-assessment or reflections, you're probably not going to be the best interviewee. You might badmouth the employer, which is a no-no in the jobs market.
Sure.
You may not be able to fully articulate how it is that you have the right skill set or the right experiences for this particular job. So that framework of taking care of yourself, physical well-being, certainly, but there's a whole host of other things that need to go on sort of here in the head to deal with that transition. And I talk about that in Bounce Back and in the Bounce Back workbook, that when change happens, and a change is something external that happens to you, often abruptly, that's one thing you have to deal with. But then you have to deal with transition. And transition is internal, and it's how you process the change that has occurred in your life. Whether you've gone through a divorce, whether you've lost a loved one, or whether you've been terminated from a job, you have some internal work to do. So again, in the workbook, I give people reflections, essays that they can write to themselves, letters that they can write, fill in the blank type of things, stuff to kind of help them along in their journey.
Okay, wonderful. I love all of that advice. Goodness gracious. Let me do something with that real quick. Here we go. All right. yo, I'm coming through, I'm letting a whole bunch of perfection come straight through. And yo, I'm just reflecting up on my life and the choices that I made. And that's what I'm saying. So in order to get paid, you got to understand how you got to heal from the wounds. And that's what I'm saying. Yo, it's real for sure. I spit a freestyle, and don't go to war with your own boss or with your old boss up in the interview. That's not how you roll. And that's what I'm saying. You got to have some goals of looking inside yourself and understanding how you could do it much, much better. And that's what I'm saying. You need to touch leather and maybe some grass. And that's what I'm saying. You got a task to go through the healing, and that's how it go. And that's what I said, freestyle flow. All right. So
don't you know?
oh. Indeed.
Love it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. You know what? I have 5 people I'm gonna send those sentiments to as soon as we get off, because I'm just like,
good.
That's good. So you drop so many strategies in your book on how to deal with the thing that you went through, whatever that 10D is. Can you pick a couple of your top ones that you feel like are just really like people need to hear this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, certainly you've highlighted one thing about self-care, right? 2 other things that I would absolutely emphasize. One is the importance of community and establishing those connections. So it doesn't matter what the setback is, you'll recover faster, better, with greater sense of surety and purpose if you have the right people in your corner.
Sure.
So now sometimes people think, well, okay, certainly if I'm trying to get a job, your network is super important. The folks that you're in contact with, whether that's former colleagues or people in the industry, family and friends who you also put it out there in the universe and say, I'm looking for a job. You know, you kind of deal with some of the internal things, again, that are going on, like getting past shame, getting past guilt, getting past blame, all of those things. But the more you shore up your circle, even if it's something like a physical setback that you're dealing with, the more quickly and the stronger you'll be in terms of your recovery. And so sometimes when we go through things, there's a tendency to suffer in silence.
I like to be loud when I suffer. People hear me.
You're like, everybody's going to know about this.
Yeah. Wailing and whatnot, lashing. Anyways.
All of the above, right? The gnashing of teeth, everything.
Right.
Yeah. Well, sometimes there may be, like I said, an element of shame, guilt.
Mm-hmm.
People may feel judged, or they just may have this mindset that, I did this. I made my bed. Now I have to lie in it, kind of thing. Like a lot of people who have been in debt or who have credit problems or just financial challenges in general, they're like, I got myself into this mess. I have to get myself out. And I'm like, no, you don't. Who said? Who told you that? Who said you have to be the architect, the sole instrument to quote unquote get yourself out?
Sure.
Maybe it is true that you can get counseling, resources, community support, friends and family, trusted voices that can add some perspective, if nothing else, right? So that sense of community is one really, really big thing. And then I think that it is important to be strategic in knowing what is the game plan, right?
Hold on, for people, we're making plans? We're making game plans? I don't like this advice. You got to cancel this now.
Sometimes I tell people, I'm like, life be lifing. Like stuff will happen and it hits you. And then you get, sometimes people are just totally reactive, right? They just deal with things as it comes about. But I'm like, no, let's put together a money game plan for you. Let's really start strategizing around your goals, your needs, your short-term objectives. And then let's kind of plot out and see what really fits, right? Like for the person who's lost a job, again, I'll reiterate that the inclination is almost like a knee-jerk reaction to be like, let me get another job. Let me put myself back out there. And it's like, no, actually reflect, deal with the transition, admit to yourself, if this was a blow to your ego, your purpose, your sense of identity, it's okay to sit with that for a minute and to own those thoughts and feelings and to deal with that and to process it. But at the same time, you know, when you get back into the saddle and say, okay, now it's time for me to look for a job, you really do want to be strategic. And that requires some thought and planning around, let me take an honest look at the job that I got fired from. And let me kind of write down, what did I hate about that job anyway? Like, Did you have a crazy boss? Did you have coworkers who you really didn't respect? Did you have to get up early hours and you didn't like that? Did you have a long commute? Because some of this is going to inform your strategy going forward. And then you should think about like, what did I really like about it or even love about it? What are my deal breakers for the next position? And so again, that can help to inform the choices that you make, because you might say, if I'm honest, here, this position came along just like that. But this is me jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire, because it's just like my old job, which I hated for, XYZ reasons.
Yeah, it's like a rebound relationship, right?
Exactly.
Like, don't just go run into that same person. That's crazy talk.
Exactly. Literally today, I was talking to my husband about someone, and I was saying, she's dated the same 3 guys. They're the exact same person. And even though it's been like crazy town, I said, she needs to reflect on, she's the common thread here, And so, yeah, you could absolutely compare it to somebody in the dating world. And divorce, as you know, is one of those 10 dreaded Ds. And again, I've been through it and had to own my own stuff in there. It's easy to say, this is what they did to me, or this is what they did wrong, But then I had to say, like, wow, what did I allow?
Sure,
what did I enable? What did I totally, buy into hook, line, and sinker? Which is why I have such an amazing husband now, because have done that work and have self-reflected and owned my own stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Important advice that, again, I'm sending this to 10 people now that I'm like, you need to hear this. This has your name written all over it.
Over it.
There it is. Now, speaking of which, I am going to say that I'm so grateful that you were laid off back in the early 2000s, even though, at the time it was.
I am too. Yeah. No, I totally am.
Yeah. So what did you find helpful in reflection during this time? Because I imagine your head was spinning plenty when it happened.
Absolutely. It was rough. I'm just going to be honest. It was not pretty at all. I was like, this is not right. This is not fair. I thought I had a contract. I did such great work. I won awards. I'm bringing in money for this company. So I was like, why me? Yeah, I know about those other 200 people that you're laying off. Why me? So it was not fun at all. And also financially stressful, of course. So really, if I'm honest, and I am going to be honest, I would have done so many things differently. And the number one thing is I would have looked out for me.
Right. Yeah.
I exited in the most boneheaded fashion that I possibly could have done.
I mean, I'm intrigued. You're like, tell me more about this mistake.
Because then you'll send this to 20 people instead of 10 now. Right? Okay. Yeah. So listen, okay, I'm a high achieving person. Sure. I'm a person who sets a standard for excellence. I'm always like trying to over deliver. And I take my professional reputation and what I do very seriously. And that was to my detriment in those circumstances. So as I was leaving, I had a job. My job was as a Wall Street Journal reporter for CNBC. I was an on-air reporter. And again, like I told you, one day my boss came to me, and it was, 200 other people too, and said, we can't afford you guys anymore. You got to go, basically. Now they gave us, some months notice and all that, and a severance package and all the things. But I was so fixated on the idea of like going out on top or with excellence that I was honing in on doing like my very best work. I was trying to like do stellar TV content. I was organizing things and like almost like putting in plan my own little succession for whoever came along. I don't know, but I was just really uber focused on the work itself, so much that I literally did not focus on me and my exit strategy and the things that would have been helpful and beneficial to me. And now at this big age, as they say, I know I would never in life do that again. Mm-hmm. I should have been shoring up all of my contacts. I should have been creating an even more robust praise folder. I can share with your audience what that is later if you want. I should have been making connections in anticipation to tell people I'm going to be leaving. Here's what I'm going to be doing to more closely support what became my entrepreneurial journey. Now, thanks to God, they say that, God looks out for babies and I guess fools, and maybe put me in the latter category at the time.
Right.
Thankfully, knock on wood, I was earning a 6-figure salary, but you said that was the best thing that happened to me and you're grateful for it. I'm grateful too. I've made way more money working for myself. And my 22-year tenure as an entrepreneur has been such an amazing
Sure,
ride.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so glad.
Hmm.
And in fact, I had a friend, Melanie, who was at the Journal also. And I was like complaining to her and saying, this is not right. This is not fair. And she reminded me, she was like, well, Lynette, didn't you always kind of say that you like wanted to have your own business anyway? You want to like pursue entrepreneurship and I was like, yeah, but on my terms. I want to do it on my, I want to be the one to quit, not them telling me, But I did see the light, obviously. I had an opportunity to go to CNN. I turned it down. And I was like, you know what? One pink slip, one firing is all I need in my life. That's more than enough. And I did decide to take the entrepreneurial path and start a business. And I'm so, so, so glad that I did. And I know for a lot of people, it's very hard. It's requiring you to go out on faith. There's a huge element of risk taking and more. And all I can say is that the water is nice over here, I understand, of course, the failure rate of small businesses. And honestly, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. But I think in a strategic way, I could have came into it a lot better. For example, financially, what I wound up doing was raiding my 401k,
Yeah.
and doing
Sure.
some things that were not wise
Right.
financially
Sure.
and career wise, mainly because I hadn't prepared, even though I had several months of lead time. So that was really the big thing, honestly. And I tell everybody that company is going to forget about you so fast. They are going to replace you. They're going to do whatever they need to do to move on. And the honest truth is, there is no corporate loyalty. So why would you sacrifice yourself at the altar of corporate America? You shouldn't.
Hmm. Absolutely. More good advice. I think I'm gonna make that a bumper sticker too.
Just put little quotes and then put Lynette Khalfani-Cox, the
There
money
it is.
coach,
There it is. Yeah, no.
founder of the Financial Influencer Network. Just throw that in
There,
there.
no,
A little
absolutely.
attribution never hurt.
Absolutely. No, 100%. You're getting it all. Speaking of, okay, so you touched on something that I think a lot of people are thinking about, which is entrepreneurship. And
Yes.
most people are just like, well, where do I even start? You know what I'm saying? Like, I tried to take over some little kid's lemonade stand the other week, and, the neighbors got mad at me. So, like, I don't, like, how do people dip their toes in it? What advice do you have for someone who's been a W-2 person their whole life and they're just like, I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do.
Totally get it. It's hard. In my own business, in my line of work, and having founded the Financial Influencer Network, I've been hiring recently. And I offered someone, a very healthy 6-figure to join, and he would basically be his own boss. And I've realized even more, especially within the media, because there's been so many waves of downsizing. I was just one of the earlier waves, 22 years ago, but look left and right, and there's the slashing that's going on. But it's really showed me how tenuous people feel
Sure.
and how lacking in confidence that they are about themselves. So I was telling somebody, you're not betting on me. I'm a winner. I'm going to win all day long. I'm a proven commodity here and I'm doing fine, right? But it is hard. And I don't mean to demean or belittle, but certainly the prospect of like doing it yourself touches on very real anxieties, fears, and a whole set of emotions linked to trauma, linked to childhood experiences, linked to the person's money personality, linked to their status, whether or not they're the breadwinner in the family, whether they have kids. There's a whole bunch of variables.
Sure.
And it's prudent, actually. Like if somebody was just like, I'm good, like, let me start. Like if they had like no filter, no lens, no reticence, no fear whatsoever, I'd be like, what's wrong with you?
Are you
So
channeling my 24-year-old self? Oh my God. I feel so seen and exposed. Oh my gosh.
exactly.
Yeah.
So if they didn't, though, it would tell me that they don't have a healthy appreciation for the task at hand. Because like I said, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. There will absolutely be cycles. There will be droughts and famines and just a wash in opportunity as well. You need to be able to navigate that. And you need to know that that's a sort of a natural cyclical part of the journey. But what I would tell somebody who's just starting out, who was considering entrepreneurship as a path, I would say first, turn a hobby into cash. So when you think about what should I do and how do I start? And okay, a hobby is something you like to do. You're passionate about it. You wouldn't just engage in it because you just have some free time and you want to pass the time away. It's something that you are either pretty good at or that you like or you want to master. So I don't know, somebody might be great at teaching piano or playing the piano. And maybe you should give piano lessons to teenagers or whoever wants to learn to play the piano. Maybe you are good with your hands and making things, leather goods or purses or something. Well, instead of doing that just as a hobby, turn it into a little small business. Maybe you're the person in the family who's the baker, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, you always give us such great cakes or cookies for the holidays. Instead of just giving it away because you love your family and friends and that's your hobby, sell it, right? So first, you'll be doing a little test run to see like how much do I really enjoy this when I have to make it a commercial activity? And am I suited or equipped to actually sell? Because being an entrepreneur requires you to sell, otherwise it is a hobby, right? So that would be the first thing. And it's to really test out what it is you think you might have an interest in. And then you'll know, yeah, this is for me or not so much, right? My son is an artist at heart. He has a degree in industrial design. He's teaching art in New Jersey to students. He loves his job. But he shared with me on many occasions that he loves to create art for its own purpose, for its own sake, right? But then when he has a little bit more of the pressure of creating a piece under deadline or for commercial purposes, it's a different feeling to create in that environment. So he does it and he actually likes to do it, but he definitely notices the difference. So that's why I would tell people first turn that hobby into cash and then see how you feel. Sit with that for a little bit and then explore whether that's the path that you want to continue on, potentially as a side hustle or a part-time gig or a full-on entrepreneurial endeavor.
That's wonderful. Oh, goodness gracious. That's great information. Let me do something with that. You got to take your hobbies and you could turn them into a hustle that you do on the side and wonder if you like to just sell because that is the part of it you do. And you understand that the cycle will come through and you might not have food up in your fridge and that's just how you got to live. And understand that deadlines might get you to not like it. All right.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Okay.
We're giving them a reality check, not just a mic check, but a reality check.
I'm telling you, it's fun. We were talking about your son and not liking to make art for monetary purposes.
Commercial.
Yeah. I had a t-shirt business back in the day and I was like, I love coming up with t-shirt ideas. And I did. But once it turned into, okay, now you got to sell these things. I was like,
so you like the creative side,
right,
not the commercial
side.
Exactly.
So
yeah, you can identify them very clearly. Yep.
Yeah,
so.
Indeed. Get a Costco taste sample of it and then keep moving from there. Okay, that's good.
That's right.
All right. So we, the people of the podcast listenership, need to hear some life hacks because I'm all about practicing good things and resilience and being your best self. I'm also about efficiency. So I do want to ask you credit building hack that most people don't know. What do you got for us?
Well, I have a lot for you on that front. How much time you have? So, I wrote a book called Perfect Credit, 7 Steps to a Great Credit Rating. I was actually profiled on CNBC for having a perfect 850 FICO score. And so this is an area I know a little bit about. So a number of hacks. Let's say you are in the market for a mortgage and you are buying a house. I know it's not easy in this environment, but let's say that you are, especially given the Fed recently lowering interest rates and kind of forecasting for 2 more rate cuts in 2025. One of the lesser known tips about improving your credit score rapidly is using something called rapid rescoring. So if there is anything that is wrong or inaccurate in your credit files, outdated, erroneous, or any information that can't be verified that may be suppressing your credit score, While you're in the process of getting a mortgage, you can have your lender do something called rapid rescoring, and they will essentially contact the credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, get your information updated with them, and then boost your credit score. And this happens in about 48 hours.
Oh, wow. That's fast.
So that's a quick hack to be able to boost your credit score very quickly under those circumstances when you're trying to get a mortgage. Now, somebody might be like, well, yeah, that's good, but I'm not trying to get a mortgage right now. Certainly anything else that is erroneous, negative information that can't be verified, or stuff that's outdated on your credit files that might be, again, diminishing your credit score, because remember, your credit report is tied to that 3-digit number that controls everything.
Mine's a 2-digit number, but yeah, carry on.
Of course, not two. But certainly, if there is anything, you can also just dispute it with the credit bureaus. And they all have an online dispute resolution service that you can just quickly get online and do. And they'll say, 30 days, but I've used it before. It's often much faster, especially because they're doing electronic things now. You'll have an opportunity to upload information or to substantiate what you're saying by submitting documentation.
Right.
And then you can find that to be quickly addressed. And again, it can help your credit score. There's a couple of other things, of course, like literally just paying off debt.
Right, yeah.
But not all debt. It's your credit card debt. So one of the things that I teach people in my book, Zero Debt, that's the New York Times bestseller, and also in Bounce Back, is that all debt is not created equally. So the credit scoring system sort of tiers your obligations and looks at mortgage debt as sort of one category. If you have a mortgage, a home equity loan, a home equity line of credit, that kind of thing. Or if you have installment obligations, installment loans, like a student loan or a car loan, or if you have revolving debt or revolving credit, like a credit card. Well, in that hierarchy, credit cards are the worst. They are scored worse in the credit scoring system for a whole host of reasons, not the least of which is it's the riskiest form of debt or credit for a lender to extend to you, because you can charge it up again.
Sure, yeah.
That's why the word revolving. You could keep charging up, right? They don't know how much you're going to pay. It's not as predictive. You could pay the minimum payments. You could pay half the balance. You could pay the whole balance in full. It's uncertain for them. And it's the form of credit that you use most often, right? With your mortgage, you got the loan. You're just going to keep paying it once a month, and the balance is going to continue declining over time. Ditto for most likely for your student loans, your car note, et cetera. And those are secured obligations when it comes to your house or your car, because if you don't pay, the repo man can come outside your house, outside your door, and take that car. You can get foreclosed upon with your house. But, you don't pay for, I don't know, that $1,000 flat screen TV you buy from a store. They can't come in your house and take the flat screen TV off your floor, right? Or off your wall. Yeah. So that unsecured debt is part of the reason why credit card debt is riskier for lenders. And it's also part of why they judge it more harshly in the credit scoring system. So I just gave you a little mini course on that. But for that reason, knock down some of that credit card debt. You'll boost your credit scores more quickly. People come to me all the time. They say, I have $60,000 in student loan debt. I have $200,000 in student loans. I have a $400,000 mortgage. Oh my God, I need to pay this because it's hurting my credit score. And then I go, no, it's not. It's not. As long as you observe rule number 1, which is pay all your obligations on time. Don't miss, because 35% of your credit score is based on your payment track record alone. As long as you're observing that and you're paying your bills on time, that big mortgage and them hefty student loans, don't worry about it for your purposes of your credit score. It's that debt. So pay down that credit card debt. You'll see your credit scores rise.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good info. And another reason why they should pay down their credit card debt is because it's the devil, right? So.
Well, I don't say it's the devil. Right. Honestly, just let's pause a moment on this. The Bible even says, like, you don't want to be enslaved by debt, basically, right? There's a reason that there was like a 7-year jubilee. Like, after people were in debt for so many years, they had debt forgiveness. Right. I wish we had that in this country. But I do want to drive a finer point home because, again, you're talking to somebody who obviously had $100,000 in credit card debt alone. I never missed a single payment. I paid it all off and then some, all the interest that I had to pay. And then, I wrote this book about it called Zero Debt, The Ultimate Guide to Financial Freedom. Now, I will say this. I knew all of my options, right? I knew I could have done debt settlement. I could have done bankruptcy if I chose to. I could have went to like a credit counseling company and tried to do a debt management plan, all of the things, but I chose to pay it off. Now, I've gotten to the point in my life, even though I knew that my credit card companies absolutely held out the carrot, right? They were like, here, do you want another credit card? Here, you want a bigger credit line? All of the teases and the offers, right? Which is why in Zero Debt, day one is opt out of all those credit card offers. And I have a 30-day plan in Zero Debt. But I had to own that. I had to say, nobody put a gun to my head. They didn't make me spend. They didn't say you must charge or else, I did that. I had to own that. I had to own the fact that I was not managing credit and debt wisely. I was impulse spending and making purchases. I was using credit way too much for things that I didn't need to use it for. And I did not have delayed gratification, like ever practically. So what I teach people now is that credit cards are not inherently evil or the devil. Honestly, it's us. It's, we need to check ourselves and to say, am I doing devilish things to myself?
Nice.
Like, am I shooting myself in the foot here? Again, I acknowledge, of course, that there's tempting, offers and all of the things, no question about it. And then the reality is that some people are getting subprime offers, 25% interest rates, crazy things that are just going to keep them enslaved with the debt, going to keep them in debt month after month, year after year. But again, when you see what your options are, systemically, there's issues and structural issues in terms of who has access to credit. There's a whole bunch of things that need to be addressed. But the things that we can control, our own behaviors, that's what I tell folks to focus on.
So you're telling people to take responsibility for their actions. Boo.
Yes, but I am saying to take responsibility, but also to definitely to call out the BS within the system, because there are some things where from a credit standpoint, from a lending standpoint, et cetera, there are some things that are traps and that are pitfalls for consumers. Everything under the sun, from payday loans to excessive use of buy now, pay later, to high exorbitant rate credit card interest rates, to banking systems that require higher deposits in some communities or in some zip codes just to avoid, say, a monthly fee, but they don't charge that same minimum balance requirement in higher wealth zip codes. So there are some systemic and structural issues that absolutely need to be addressed as well. But I'm saying in its entirety, we can't exclusively say, oh, look what you did to me, or you gave me this offer, because we have to take a look in the mirror, right? And say, did I have to accept the offer? And now that I did I read all the terms? Did I understand the Schumer box when it's talking to me about how much I'm going to pay in interest or how long it's going to take for me to pay off this debt if I just make minimum payments? All of those things matter.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad that you brought up payday loans. Oh my goodness, they are the worst. All the things you mentioned are just bad. I'm just like, stay away from anybody who's, hey, here's some free money for now. Oh my goodness.
Exactly.
Okay. So budgeting. The budgeting is so tough. And I read somewhere that I can't remember the stats, but like most or a lot of people don't stick to their budgets. They overspend. What advice do you have on that to not keep us indebted to the Visa, MasterCard, Amex cartel of the world?
You call them a cartel. You were like, oh my gosh, okay. Well, let's see. What I would suggest is that not only, yes, do you take responsibility and not blame, whether that's a Visa, MasterCard, American Express of the world, those networks or those institutions that are extending credit and that are, serving a good purpose, I think, in large part. I think that they all can and should and continue to do a lot more on the financial education side, as should we. And your podcast is a platform for doing just that. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to share with your audience. But the budgeting thing, you mentioned, you forgot the stats or how many people, but really what research shows is that 70% of folks in America do not have a budget or do not operate according to one. They don't stick to one, certainly. Again, I've been doing this 22 years. And I have a really good sense of some of the why, in addition to the structural and systemic factors that are absolutely at play in many folks' lives. Everything from the wage gap between Black and white, for example, the wage gap for women who are getting paid, 70, 75 cents on the dollar compared to what a man is making. So it's like, okay, you're already having less money to
Sure.
manage your finances overall. So that affects your ability to budget and to save, et cetera. So besides some of those factors, I think that in large part, the vast majority of us have not been taught this. And budgeting is a skill.
Right.
It is something that you can learn. And there are some, kind of practical do's and don'ts to help you to become a better budgeter. So the very first thing that I tell people, and this might sound extremely simplistic, but nobody does this. So the number one rule of budgeting, according to the money coach, is you cannot spend more than you earn.
Right.
Now, people might be like, well, duh, yeah, of course. Well, yeah, but again, most of you are. You're like, of course, that's obvious, but you're still doing it. So it does not matter your income level, whether you earn 30,000, 300,000, or 3 million a year. If you spend more than you earn, you'll always be broke and in debt. The math will never be mathing for you. It won't add up properly, okay? So you really do need to make sure that you've actually taken an account of your outflow and your inflow. So how much do you have going out the door? What are your true monthly expenses? Not a guesstimate, not a I think kind of thing, but you have to actually put down on pen and paper, black and white, or through an app or a tool, a software program, what is going out the door. And then you have to compare that against your net income and what is coming in the door. If you see that there is a shortage, for example, that, oh, wow, my bills each month are more than what my actual take home pay is, when you look at everything, you have to be willing to adjust. If you're not, no matter what you do, it will never work. All you're going to keep doing is borrowing over here, using credit cards to fill the gap, taking payday loans, borrowing from family members, doing a whole bunch of stuff. So you have to start there to just see, like, am I in alignment at any sort of level? And of course, if you're not, you adjust accordingly. You make a call, a judgment call about what is a priority for you and what is not. The things that are not priority, you start to scale back and to shave some of those off of the budget. But then I'll tell you something else that's an extremely counterintuitive hack about becoming a better budgeter. And it's spend money on yourself.
Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa,
So,
whoa. Okay, please explain. Oh, goodness.
yes. So the vast majority of people who sit down and painstakingly try to go over their budgets, they have a whole bunch of I gottas in their budget. I got to pay the rent or the mortgage. I got to buy food. I got to put gas in my car. I got to pay the utilities, all of the things, and they don't have anything for themselves. So they may haphazardly do it. They may splurge. Like I said, they may have an impulse purchase. They may just on instincts, sometimes buy something for themselves, but they haven't systematically and strategically allotted money every single month for themselves. And the reason that this is so helpful is because of behavioral psychology. None of us wants to be deprived, right? So the reason people hate the B word so much is they feel like they're in a financial straitjacket. They're like, oh, you're going to put me on a budget. You're going to tell me all the things that I can't buy, I can't do, what I can't achieve, what I can't have. And I'm like, no, 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 no. On the contrary, I'm going to let you decide. I'm going to ask you what is important to you. What are your values? What do you prioritize? And then let's fund that. Let's set aside some money for that. So if you tell me, oh my God, I love photography, I'm going to say, oh, let's set aside some money. Do you need a new camera? Do you buy film every month? Do you take little classes on photography? What is the thing that you're spending money on that has to do with photography? And I'm going to say, let's build that into the budget. Then you don't have guilt spending. You don't go overboard. You're strategic. You still can make sure that your spending is in alignment with your actual income, all of the things. And you feel like, oh, I get to have some fun here. I get to enjoy. So you're able to stick to the budget because you're not suffering from frugal fatigue. This is a hack for actually sticking to your budget and staying on track with the budget month after month, year after year.
That's good. That's good. Spend on yourself. Can I put that on a bumper sticker too? Not kidding.
You absolutely can. Yeah. Again, as long as you observe the number one rule, make sure that your expenses and what you're spending on is less than the income that you're bringing in. No value judgment on my part. Sometimes people go, Lynette, I'm a purse girl. Oh, I love my shoes. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know what I do when people tell me that? I was like, great. What kind of shoes do you like? And they're like, oh, they're not getting the judgment. I'm not wagging my finger. I'm not telling them that you shouldn't. If that's what you want, if that's your priority, if that's important to you, by all means, go ahead. Let's work into the budget, money for your handbags or your shoes or whatever. Some people want electronics. Some people want to golf. Some people want to travel, whatever it is. It's not up to us to judge people for what brings them pleasure or joy. But I will say this, in all my years of coaching and of just talking to people about their experiences and their values and what they want, et cetera, the frivolous stuff actually goes to the wayside very quickly after like 2 or 3 months. So if they said to me, yeah, I really love purses or bags or whatever, I would go, oh, great, let's work that into the budget. Then they'll sit up there and they'll go, oh, I bought a purse or 2 purses this month. I bought another purse next month. I bought another purse. Now they have 5 purses. And it's like the person who says, I need a LBD, that for women, that's a little black dress. Okay. And then they're looking in the closet. They have like 4 little black dresses. And they're like, really? Do I need another little black dress? So after a while, behavior that is not in alignment with their own values and their own choices and their own priorities actually tends to go by the wayside because it brings clarity into focus for them. And they're like, why am I spending on this? And then they get closer to what's important for them. So again, it's not for us to judge people about what they choose to spend their money on. It's to help them to create a framework for spending that has some guardrails and that's safe for them in terms of not going into debt.
I like this advice and I don't like this advice because you told me not to judge people and that makes me very upset.
You're like Lovey, I'm judging you. She, the troublemaker. She had a book and her brand is around that. Yeah, I'm judging you.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Well, she's very humorous in her take too, but yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I guess I can't make that my brand now. I was planning on it.
It's already taken.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you have given me more time than we have allotted for, and I want to be mindful of the fact that you have things to do. And I could listen to you all day about this, though. I would like to ask you a couple of questions. You are a legendary mentor. I've heard people just talk you onto the cloud with Mufasa or whatever it is. And I'm just like, wow, that's amazing. And so as we talk about mentorship, it's so key in becoming successful. What advice do you have for people who are seeking mentorship and also trying to keep a mentor around?
Oh, that's a great question. I think what I would say for anyone who's seeking a mentor and who wants to keep that mentor around is to recognize the importance of reciprocity in a mentor-mentee relationship. And so a lot of times people come to a mentor and I'm just summarizing here. They're kind of like, help me, pour into me, lead me, guide me, teach me, oh master, kind of thing. And you need to recognize sort of like why some people choose to mentor, why they choose to devote their time and to give back in various ways. And sometimes it's because in the teaching and in the giving back, we're able to not only help and to create a bigger impact and kind of pay it forward, but also there are times when it's like, oh, wow, in me teaching or doing something with this person, let's say they're a younger person who's 20 years younger than I am, I'm also able to learn from them. Like I'm also able to get added perspective, insights, maybe stay up and keep fresh on what's happening in the pulse with, say, Gen Z, as opposed to me, who's a Gen Xer. So all of those things actually are value added and are helpful. So the point is, most mentors aren't like, what can you do for me also? But it's just that you should be mindful of that. You shouldn't just be a pure taker. And it shouldn't feel like a drain on the mentor. That person should feel like, oh, it's a joy and a wonderful thing to talk to this person. Now, I'll tell you another way that mentors love reciprocity and love to feel like what I said was helpful to them and was value added. It's when they see you executing on the strategies and advice and the insights that they've shared with you, because we like to see people thrive and grow. So if I'm talking to you and I'm telling you so many strategies, I'm giving you advice, I'm giving you connections and access to an inner circle, but you just don't do anything with it, or you, even worse, you embarrass yourself or me in the process, that's not a good look. So most mentors are attracted to and are geared toward helping those who help themselves. So when we see somebody who's like on fire and who's like passionate about the work and just goes for it, it's like, wow, let me help elevate this person further. I see a superstar in the making and I'm just amplifying them. I'm just helping them to do what they were naturally going to do anyway, but perhaps with a little bit more speed of execution and a little more fire and a little more wind in the sails.
Oh my gosh, that is great advice. I'm gonna do something with that. Let's go. Let me see here. Yo, I come through and get a whole bunch of mentorship by understanding it's a two-way street. And that's what I see. Yo, it's probably reciprocity. What I freaking need. I need to not be a drag. I need to bring some joy. And that's what I'm saying. I need to bring some noise straight to the heart when we're creating it. And that's my part. And that's what I'm saying. I need to understand. I need to execute on all the things that they tell me about and no freaking doubt. I need to run routes and show them that I'm the realness. And that's why I'm coming through. I come through and I feel it. A whole bunch of love and a whole bunch of mentorship. And that's why I say when I come through with mental flips, I spit off the top. And that's how I go. Freestyle flow. Act like you know.
Oh, wow. You're good with this.
Yeah. I try to have fun. I try to have fun. So here we are.
There you go.
Yeah.
Man, to be able to do this extemporaneously, that's not easy at all. So that's great. And you literally combine in and weave in the tips and the advice and the insight. And that's awesome. Yeah. I'm impressed.
Thank you. Yeah, there's some things I'm terrible at. So,
but that's not one.
I just anytime everybody gives me any sort of accolades on that, I'm just like, you have to see my weaknesses first before you. Anyways, okay, we're gonna go with one more question then. Here's the deal. You are brilliant and people should go to your website and they should go and read all 16 of your books and listen to other interviews that you've done. But also, I know that you have learned to live from other people as well. There are great minds that you've tapped into as you've become a great mind. So who are some people that you're like, hey, people need to go check them out because they have helped me grow in my life?
Ooh, this is a good one. One, I would absolutely say is Sandra Davis. She heads Sage Financial. She's out on the West Coast. Just a master coach, a person who centers a client and believes that we all have it within us to solve our own problems, and that even us as experts, we need to kind of step back to let people sort of discover their truth and really be facilitators along the journey for those who are trying to achieve financial wellness. At so many levels, she's helped and mentored me. She's a friend and a colleague, but just a great person to know. Literally, like any brand would be lucky to have her to consult, to strategize, to, do training for their people, et cetera. So I would definitely say her. I'm a little bit of a geek and a nerd, and I read a lot, and I tend to like things that help my thinking to grow and to expand in ways. And so I've been sharing recently about Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I don't know him personally. I don't have a personal connection, but I certainly have read several of his books. He's an organizational psychologist. He wrote Who Not How with Dan Sullivan, and also a book about 10Xing your life and your business and why 10X is easier than 2X. And some of that thinking has informed a lot of what I'm doing right now, especially in terms of our recent establishment and growth for the Financial Influencer Network, where we have a network of 26 trusted authorities in every category of money management and personal finances, from estate planning and insurance and taxes and budgeting and credit and debt to niche categories like pets and money, travel and money, health and wealth, family finances, entrepreneurship, and more. But so many of the things that I learned in his books, now I'm executing on as the founder of the Financial Influencer Network, or FIN. And I just see so many more things with just clear-eyed precision to understand why the people are driving everything and why what you did before will not get you to the next level, and why you have to change completely your thinking and the things that you're doing to 10x something. And we are 10xing. So yeah, those would be the two that I would say, one that I know well, and one that I know through the writings and the advice, but I follow and have taken to heart the advice and executed on the insights from both.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's great. I'm going to make sure to link their websites in the show notes. First and foremost, thank Mr. Earl for letting me borrow you for so long. I do apologize, but also for being so gracious in our communication. He's been wonderful. You've been wonderful. And I'm very grateful that y'all gave me this opportunity to interview you. So
again, I was looking forward. I know it took a minute to get everything scheduled with travel, and we were out of the country. We've been to Africa 3 times this year. We went to Europe. We've been doing a lot of traveling. We're going back to Africa at the end of October for a month. And so I know it was a while to get everything together here, but well worth the wait for me, certainly. You're a great interviewer, and this was a very fun conversation too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to have you out on, and I'm stoked about putting this out there. Before we log off, the people want to connect with you. What are the best ways to connect with you on the interwebs?
Sure. They can certainly hit my free financial advice blog. It's askthemoneycoach.com. They can reach out to me or just to view my personal site as well, Lynette Khalfani-Cox.com, or they can connect with me on social, and I'm on all the platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter/X, Facebook, YouTube, all of the things. And I like to reach into and to connect with folks, but probably the more direct is LinkedIn.
Okay, wonderful. And I'll make sure to tag all of those in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time and your talent and your contribution to the world. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. And,
all right. Thank you. Indeed. Appreciate it.
All right. So that's the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you put into practice all the learnings from the conversation. Now, if you're new here, don't forget to hit the follow button so you don't miss future episodes. And my one ask on this particular episode is for you to think about someone in your life that needs to hear this message and send it their way. All right, I want to give a shout out to my man Siraj Rett, who made the instrumental for this podcast, and shout out to Ted Cragg, who edited this episode. So that's all I got for now. This is Your One Life. I'm Kim Young Kim, and I hope you have a great day and a great week. Until next time. Peace!